In this video, I'm going to teach you how to conduct deductive thematic analysis using Nvivo. This is a comprehensive step-by-step guide which will help you go from transcripts such as this to a final findings report like this. My name is Bernard Mugo from Surviving Research. In the past year, I've helped more than 50 students complete their thesis, dissertations, or even publish manuscripts by assisting them analyze qualitative data with Nvivo. Come with me as I share my experience with you for free in this video. At the end of this video, I'm going to attach the codebook we developed together, the Nvivo file, the complete findings report, and any other resource. Now, let's get into the video. So, what's the definition of thematic analysis? Thematic analysis is the process of identifying patterns or themes within qualitative data. Most of the time, thematic analysis is guided by research questions, aims, or objectives. When do we use thematic analysis? Thematic analysis is particularly useful when looking for subjective information such as participants' experiences, views, and opinions. For this reason, thematic analysis is often conducted on data derived from interviews, conversations, open-ended survey responses, or even social media posts. Now, here are examples of studies that can rely on thematic analysis. For example, a study exploring various coping mechanisms employed by individuals dealing with trauma or stress, research investigating students' perceptions and experiences with online learning platforms, a study examining the experiences of patients managing chronic illnesses such as diabetes or hypertension. Now that we understand what is thematic analysis, let's examine the two main approaches to thematic analysis. The two main approaches to thematic analysis are inductive and deductive thematic analysis. So let's look at inductive thematic analysis. The inductive approach to thematic analysis involves deriving themes from qualitative data without any preconceptions. That means that we dive into the qualitative data, such as interview transcripts, and formulate codes, subthemes, and themes from what the data provides. So, for example, let's say you are investigating a conversation between students who've just gone through a test. You would investigate the themes that emerge from the conversation without any preconceived ideas of what you might find out. This would be an inductive approach to thematic analysis. So, an example of an inductive approach to thematic analysis is reflexive thematic analysis approach, popularized by Brown and Clark in their paper they published in 2006 and subsequent revisions. Now, if you would like to learn more about inductive thematic analysis, especially the reflexive thematic analysis approach, check the in-depth video I did on this approach by Brown and Clark. See the link in the description. Now, the next approach to thematic analysis is deductive thematic analysis. Deductive thematic analysis involves developing a predetermined set of themes and subthemes, and then diving into the qualitative data to look for codes that match or support the predetermined themes or subthemes. The deductive approach to thematic analysis is therefore suitable for individuals conducting confirmatory research where they have structured interviews and want to find out specific information. For example, let's say a researcher wants to find out the benefits and shortcomings of a given tool in a company. Because such research is confirmatory in nature, the researcher can decide to formulate a structured interview where they ask participants about the benefits and shortcomings of the given tool. So, when conducting deductive thematic analysis on such data, we would expect two main themes, that is, benefits and shortcomings. This means that such themes would be predetermined, making such a study ideal for the deductive approach to thematic analysis. So, an example of the deductive approach to thematic analysis is the codebook approach. Now, in this tutorial, I'm going to use the deductive approach to thematic analysis to give you a real-world example of how to conduct such kind of analysis. I'm going to use Nvivo, which is one of the most popular computer-aided qualitative data analysis software. So basically, the steps that we are going to use to conduct deductive analysis using Nvivo are 1. Developing the codebook, 2. Transferring the codebook into Nvivo, 3. Coming up with codes and fitting the codes into themes, 4. Revising the codes, and 5. Reporting findings. Let me interrupt this video for a minute and inform you of my services. The first type of service that I offer is the done-for-you qualitative data analysis service. This includes manual word-by-word coding, coming up with themes, visualization, and writing the findings report, which you can use in the 4th chapter of your thesis, dissertation, or the findings chapter of your manuscript. I also provide a recording to explain to you how I conducted the analysis and how I came up with everything in Nvivo. The second service I offer is consulting service, where you hop on a Teams, Google Meet, or Zoom call with me, and I'll make you a pro in Nvivo in a few hours, showing everything that you might need to analyze your data qualitatively. Talk to me right now. See my contact details in the description and on the pinned comment. Let's conduct deductive thematic analysis using Nvivo. For this tutorial, I have a study that I want to focus on. So the study title is Evaluating the Importance of Parental Engagement in a Large English Primary School. So we have this study objective. So if you look at the study objectives, to determine what parental engagement means to teachers, to highlight the most effective forms of parental engagement, to determine what teachers prioritize, to determine whether teachers prioritize parental engagement, to evaluate the benefits of strong parental engagement in schools, to evaluate the challenges associated with strong parental engagement in schools, to determine the main barriers of increased parental engagement in schools, and to highlight examples of training and guidance teachers have received in relation to parental engagement. Okay? I want to also open another document here. The interview questions. By the way, if you read the questions, people use the term parental engagement in lots of different ways. In your experience, what does parental engagement mean? If you compare that question to the first objective, to determine what parental engagement means to teachers, you can see the connection between the interview questions, okay, and the study objectives. So, this is a structured interview that this researcher administered, and that's why we are using the deductive approach to thematic analysis, because this approach works best when we have a structured interview. That means the researcher is asking the same questions to all participants, and they had written down the questions somewhere. The questions were fixed. So the questions and the objectives will help us to develop what we would call the code book or the code structure, rather to determine the themes we want to find out or the themes we want to develop or to construct before we conduct the analysis, which again is the main point of deductive thematic analysis. The main difference between deductive and inductive thematic analysis is that in deductive thematic analysis, we come up with predetermined themes and sub-themes in some instances. But in inductive, the data will help us develop themes, okay? But here, we determine or we come up with the themes a priori or before conducting the analysis. So, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to come up with the themes that we'll be looking for in this study. So, I want to draw a table that has theme and description, just 2 columns, and as many rows as I can for now. So, I want to call this theme and description. Following the first step of deductive thematic analysis is to come up with a clearly defined code structure or to come up with clearly defined themes that we are going to fit the data into. Let's go back to the objectives. So I'm going to use the objectives to develop my themes, okay? So if you look at the first objective, to determine what parental engagement means to teachers, okay? So let's come up with a theme. Meaning of parental engagement to teachers. So again, when I want to fill the description for this theme, what do? Read the questions. The question will provide the description. People use the term parental engagement in lots of different ways. In your experience, what does parental engagement mean? Subjective meaning of parental engagement according to teachers. So you can see, the theme is meaning of parental engagement to teachers. The description is subjective meaning of parental engagement according to teachers. Let's look at another objective. Another objective is to highlight the most effective forms of parental engagement. So the second theme is effective forms of parental engagement, okay? Let's go to the interview questions, the structured interview questions, and see the description for that. In your view, what types of parental engagement are most effective? Teachers' views of the most effective forms of parental engagement, okay? Now, let's go to the objectives again. to determine whether teachers prioritize parental engagement. So I can have a theme called prioritization of parental engagement, whether parental engagement is a priority for the interviewed teachers. So you can see what I'm trying to do. I'm using the objectives and the interview questions to come up with clear themes. Again, I remind you, we only utilize deductive thematic analysis mainly when we are doing confirmatory studies. We know exactly what we want from our data already. So we have already determined the themes and probably the sub-themes that we want to look for in the data. So you can also go ahead here and call this theme #1, okay? You can go ahead here and call this theme #2, theme 3 for this one, and so on and so forth. I'll go in here and keep doing or coming up with themes for every major research objective. And then I'm going to use the questions to formulate clear descriptions for each theme, okay? So I'm going to have, or I'm going to get a table like this. This is the complete table that I made. You can see theme 1, meaning of parental engagement to teachers. So you see subjective meaning of parental engagement according to individual teachers. Theme 5, challenges associated with strong parental engagement in schools. Challenges that teachers associate with strong parental engagement in schools. When I have this code book, we are going to move to the next step where I import this code book into Nvivo. I go ahead and open Nvivo. This is how Nvivo opens, okay? I'm going to create a new project and I'm going to name this project. We can call this Deductive Thematic Analysis Project, okay? So let's click on next. I want you to go, when Nvivo gives you this autosave project, don't click yes, leave it. Display save reminders every, for example, you can say every 10 minutes, okay? So this will help you never to lose your work. So if your computer maybe goes off or anything happens, Nvivo hangs or rather malfunctions, you can only lose 10 minutes of information because you would have already saved the previous versions. So I create project. When you open Nvivo, the first thing you see to your left is a blue menu, and at the top we also have another menu. Don't worry about all these controls. Focus on only the files area and the codes area as a beginner. Files, codes. Don't worry about the rest. Those ones are for other functions and other kinds of analysis, okay? So files and codes. The first thing I want to do is to go in there, go to files, and import my files, okay? These are my two files. I click on both and click open and click import. So Nvivo is now importing my two files, as you're going to see. So if you go to the file section, you can see my two files, interview 1, interview 2. Now let's go to the codes. This is deductive thematic analysis. That means we have already a predetermined set of themes that we want to find in the data. So we want to connect the data to the themes that we have already established a priori, if you like. So go back to the themes. I have the themes we just created with you, the predetermined themes. Let's look at theme 1, okay? Let's copy theme 1 and go to the code section, right click on the blank space, okay? Create new code or Ctrl+Shift+N and paste the theme. I want to delete the colons because they can inhibit the formation of the theme. And before I even click again, I want to go and copy the description of that theme and go back to Nvivo and put the description in there. So, and click OK. So the first theme, go to code properties. You can see it has a clear description. Let's do that for all the themes, okay? Let's go to theme number 2 again. Remember, we have already predetermined these themes. That's why we are doing deductive thematic analysis. So when you are doing deductive thematic analysis, let me repeat again, you have to have a clear set of themes that you have predetermined and a clear description. So right click again on the blank space. We are on code section, so I'm on codes. Right click on the blank space, go to new code and paste, okay? This is a new theme. Again, let's go back to our table and do what? Copy the description and paste it in there. That's the second theme. Now, let's do the final theme. Theme number 6, barriers of increased parental engagement goals, okay? So let's paste that. We wanna paste the description and that's okay. So let me go to codes again. You can see, these are the themes that we want to find in our data through the deductive thematic analysis process. Each theme has a clear description. Remember, we got these descriptions from the interview questions which were structured. So the interview questions provide a better explanation of the theme. Okay, now let's go to the third step of deductive thematic analysis, which is coming up with codes and fitting codes into themes. Remember, we imported two transcripts. Okay, I have opened the files. The first file, I went to files, double click on the file, you open the file. Okay, then I want to go to the codes because we are going to bring all the codes here, and then I want to collapse. You can see a menu facing my left. I click there to provide a better working space. Okay, so let's look at this. Great. Okay, so many questions are going to focus on parental engagement, as you know. The first set are quite general, and then we'll narrow in on the COVID impact later. People use the term parental engagement in lots of different ways. This is one of the questions, structured questions that this guy is asking. This is this question, okay? So this interviewee had structured question. They wanted to find out specific issues or themes, and that's why we are using deductive thematic analysis. So let's go back to the question. People use the term parental engagement in lots of different ways. In your experience, what does it mean in school when people talk about parental engagement? Let's see what this guy says. For me, it means the partnership between school and parents. So I want to code these two. So let me type that. You can voice type also. Partnership between school and parents. That's my first code. See what happens to my code. After I make the code, I don't leave it lying out there. No, I will grab the code, click on it, drag and drop it into theme 1 so that that code is under theme 1. The meaning of parental engagement to teachers. Remember the description, or that theme relates to question number 1, subjective meaning of parental engagement according to individual teachers. I want to right click and I want to go to aggregate coding from children so that you are not left with 0, okay? So partnership between school and parents is one of the meaning of parental engagement according to one of the interviewed teachers. So not just with the academic side of things, but with all the personal, social, and health. Creating a community, if you like, so the school is the heart of the community. So establishing a community between school and parents, or let me code that as establishment of a community with the school being at the heart of the community. Now look at this code I just made. It's like a sentence. So codes can be short, they can be long as they are accurate. Make sure your codes are accurate. I can always come back and edit the codes, refine them, make them shorter, okay? So let's move to the next question, which will relate now to theme number 2. Most effective forms of parental engagement. So let's hear the question. Great. And in your view, what types of parental engagement are most effective? As you've alluded to, there are lots of different ways it could be defined. So this answer, the interviewee or the respondent says, I think the most effective are the ones where that have a strong purpose, so the parents know why they are coming in. Obviously, some of our parents, school is a barrier, so I think some of the more social community-based events that get parents through the door for just a coffee or a chat are really important. So types of parental engagement are, we can code that as social and community-based events that encourage parents to visit the school physically. Copy. So I have highlighted the section I want to code. I drag and drop it, drag the selection to a new code, then I paste what I just voice typed. So this is social and community events that encourage parents to visit the school physically. So that's a code I can develop there. So codes can be long sentences. Don't worry about that, okay? Like having 2 words code, 1 word code. No, we can always come back and edit them. Again, right click, aggregate coding from children. Let's go to the next statement. It says, as well as even things like phone calls. So phone calls with parents. Phone calls with parents. Remember, I'm just voice typing. It's only that I don't want to type with my hands. So again, I drag and drop that in there. So I've coded this section as phone calls with parents as an effective form of parental engagement, and grabbing parents on the playground for informal chats about their children. Okay? So I think this falls under social and community-based events that encourage parents to visit the school physically. So if you find another code that collaborates with another code you have, you just highlight that statement and drag and drop it into a previous code, okay? So you can see right now, for example, here we have 2 references. It means I have 2 statements supporting social and community-based events that encourage parents to visit the school physically as the most effective forms of parental engagement. We can see that interviewee has given us 2 effective forms of parental engagement, which are phone call with parents and social and community-based events that encourage parents to visit the school physically. Okay, let's keep going with this transcript. Great, thank you. And obviously you have a lot of different responsibilities. So is parental engagement a priority for you amongst other responsibilities? So this guy is being asked whether the parental engagement is a priority for them. Prioritization of parental engagement. Theme number 3. Yes, with my assessment hat on, I think it's important that parents know where their children are and that we are honest with them about that. So parental engagement is a priority. That's what this teacher is saying. They are basically saying parental engagement is a priority for them. So I click OK, I create new code, drag and drop it under theme 3, right click, aggregate coding from children. So this is how we match the already developed themes. The themes were developed a priori to the codes in deductive thematic analysis. So every theme has statements that support it, and these statements are coming from the codes that we are making. Okay, so let's look at another question. Yes, it can be really broad, can't it? In your experience, what are the main barriers to increased parental engagement? Time. Then the interviewer asks, is that teacher's time or parents' time? I think both. At the moment, teachers have so much to do, so much paperwork. I think it's becoming harder. It's a harder job than it was. For parents, some have full work and other children care responsibilities. So that's the time element. So let's copy, or let's get this and look at this theme. Okay? So if you read this question, main barriers to increase parental engagement, it relates to theme 6, barriers to increase parental engagement in schools. It means that this interviewer jumped 2 questions, but it's okay. So let's look at barriers of increased parental engagement in school. We can see lack of sufficient time for engagement among both parents and teachers. So that's my code. That's how I have interpreted those 2 statements. So I drag and drop this. I click paste. I paste the code. Then I drag the code and drop it into barriers. Then I right click. I click on aggregate coding from children. Okay. So I'm going to go and do the second transcript and fill all that data in here. When I do fill all that data in here, we are going to move on, or we are going to proceed with our analysis. Okay. So let me go and do transcript number 2 so that we can be able to move on together. I've just completed fitting the codes into themes. So if you look at my transcripts, you can see I was doing a lot of coding in there. Let's look at this one too. You can see I did some coding in there and I fitted those codes into my themes. Okay, so let's look at the next step in deductive thematic analysis, which is revising and reviewing the codes. So basically you look at the codes and you look if they have shared meaning. If they don't, we just leave them. If they do, we match them. Okay, so basically for today I don't have codes that I can match, but if we did, that would be the 4th step of deductive thematic analysis, which is revising the codes. So let's go to the final step of deductive thematic analysis, which is reporting the findings. So here I have the report which I've taken time to write, and again I'm going to attach this and provide this for free for those who want to read and probably imitate this report when doing the deductive thematic analysis. So you can see I have tables. I had this table which was the code book that I was using, and I have another table here showing the coding structure. I'm going to label that as table showing the coding structure. So we have theme, code, interview, excerpt. Then we have the presentation of the findings and the excerpts that we are going to have in there. This is what I did. So I have taken time to present the findings, each theme, its meaning, or the responses that were connected to that theme through deductive thematic analysis, and basically the participant excerpts connected to that theme. So if I was doing this report for my thesis or for my dissertation, I would definitely add more visuals at different points, and the report would be longer because I would now write about all the themes and provide very in-depth descriptions. So this is just a sample, but I hope it will help you to begin writing the findings of your study after conducting the deductive thematic analysis process. Remember, if you are stuck with your project, I offer done for you data analysis services with Nvivo. I also provide one-on-one consulting services. So check my website or contact me, details in the description and on the pinned comment. Thank you.